Hello, my dear viewers. I need to talk to you about something that has been completely keeping me up at night because I just cannot shake the feeling that something is terribly wrong here. If you have been following the tragic death of Elena Moore, you probably think you know how this heartbreaking story ends. We all saw the news reports, and we all hoped for a different outcome, but a devastating discovery in a wooded area just changed everything. And the details coming out of South Carolina are absolutely bone-chilling. But honestly, that is not even the part that stopped me cold. What is truly terrifying is a completely separate, twisted layer to this story involving her husband that leaves so many dark, unanswered questions hanging in the air. I'm looking at these latest timeline updates right now, and the sheer panic this woman must have felt makes my stomach turn. How does someone just vanish into thin air right after leaving a crowded public space while the people around her look the other way? I cannot unknow what I just found out, and we need to talk about it. Let's get into it. The nightmare became undeniable on Wednesday, June 17th at exactly 2:48 in the afternoon. A citizen's tip led investigators into a dense, suffocating patch of woods near Old Cherokee Road. What they pulled out of those trees completely breaks my heart. It was a woman's body, and she was still wearing the exact olive green zip-up hoodie and dark athletic pants that Elena Moore had on when she vanished. SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, instantly rushed in to take over this active death investigation. It makes me sick to my stomach to think about what she went through out there alone in the heat. But wait, why did it take a whole week to look into these woods? Well, let's look at how this whole timeline started, because the local police made some major blunders that will make your blood boil. First, authorities put out a report saying Elena was last seen at a CVS. Families were panicking, trying to find her, and then police suddenly had to walk that entire story back. Then they put out another update saying she was found safe. Can you believe that? They told everyone everything was fine, only to admit later it was a cruel mistake. How does an entire police department screw up a missing persons case twice in 24 hours? It is completely infuriating. The truth is, Elena was well known in Lexington as a personal trainer, a local bartender, and a CVS worker. She was a deeply loved part of this community. But her behavior just days before she disappeared was deeply troubling. News Nation reporter Mills Hayes spoke directly to a local couple who checked their Ring doorbell camera from June 4th, an entire week before Elena disappeared. On that video, Elena is seen wandering into their apartment hallway, looking completely out of breath, flushed, and totally disoriented. She casually intercepted their DoorDash delivery, and when the confused homeowner opened the door, Elena actually tried to step right inside his home. When they asked what she was doing, she looked completely lost and whispered, "Honestly, I don't know." Look at how this story completely fractures the moment state investigators from SLED take over. The local police department immediately threw a massive blanket of secrecy over the entire case, refusing to answer the most basic questions. But why? Why wouldn't they tell the public if there was a killer on the loose, or even where her body was found? It makes you furious because the families in Lexington deserve transparency, not a media blackout. But listen to this, because here is the real kicker that will make your jaw drop. The police were incredibly fast to tell the public that Elena's husband, Brandon Slice, was absolutely not a person of interest. They cleared him almost instantly before a forensic autopsy was even performed. Now, ask yourself, how does that make any sense in a standard missing person investigation? It doesn't. But when you dig into his background, the puzzle pieces start to look terrifying. Brandon isn't just an ordinary grieving husband. He is former law enforcement and a practicing private investigator. He knows exactly how tracking systems work. He knows what local cops look for, and he was the one who held on to Elena's vehicle the entire time she was missing. Even more disturbing, right before she vanished, he posted a strange message online about her health, only to delete it completely. What did he know that he wanted erased from the internet? The digital trail he left behind is just the beginning of what he was desperately trying to hide. Think about the psychological state Elena must have been in during those final hours. When you look closely at that viral June 4th Ring camera footage from the overlooked Golden Hills apartments, it paints a deeply distressing picture. This complex is located a mere 0.6 of a mile away from the Planet Fitness where she was last tracked on June 11th. Why was she orbiting this specific half-mile radius? Let's put ourselves in the homeowner's shoes. They watched her pace the hallway, entirely out of breath, picking up their DoorDash receipt and staring at it blankly. When confronted while sitting cross-legged on a neighbor's porch, rifling through private packages, she didn't run. She didn't act aggressive. Instead, she looked up with hollow eyes and admitted she was completely lost. This wasn't just a strange encounter. It was a loud, desperate cry for help from a woman whose mind was actively fracturing. The intense summer heat and humidity in Lexington only compounded her physical disorientation, leaving her flushed and vulnerable. But as independent investigators looked closer, this tragic scene wasn't just a random medical episode. A hidden record from a local facility reveals she was running from a far more concrete danger. The truth hidden beneath the surface of this tragedy is that Elena Moore was fighting a silent battle long before she entered those woods. Independent records reveal that just weeks before she vanished, Elena had checked out of Three Rivers Behavioral Health, a local mental health treatment facility. She was vulnerable, hurting, and struggling deeply with intense relationship issues at home after 13 years with Brannon. When you combine her sudden adoption background, moving all the way from Russia to a completely new life in South Carolina, with a fracturing mind, the emotional weight of her reality becomes genuinely heartbreaking. Now, as we stand today, SLED is handling this as an active death investigation with suspected foul play, waiting on the final forensic autopsy to reveal exactly how Elena died. But the silence from law enforcement is deafening. They won't release where her body was found or what her PI husband's law enforcement connections are hiding. The system seems entirely content with sweeping her final cries for help under the rug. Elena wasn't just a headline. She was a beloved personal trainer and a friend who was failed by the very people meant to protect her. So, I have to ask you, what do you think really happened out there on Old Cherokee Road? Does her husband's background as a private investigator and former cop explain why the department cleared him so fast? Or was Elena completely consumed by a tragic mental health crisis in the stifling summer heat? Drop your theories in the comments below, because we cannot let this story fade into silence. Did the system fail her, or did someone close to her pull the strings?